How sweet it is. This is the fellowship I've always craved. I'm a real alcoholic. My name is Alvin. I did a lot of other shit, but alcoholism was the engine behind my other stuff. No question. I'm a real alcoholic. But you know, in the day when I was doing a lot of drinking and all that other stuff, when I hit that bottom, that alcoholic bottom, that transition from the average temperate drinker, party drinker, I hit that bottom and crossed that line. And when I hit that bottom, I would be in the same room with a whole lot of guys that I got loaded with and got drunk with. And I'm sitting there in the late stages of my alcoholism saying, God, it's got to be more than this. It's got to be more than this. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but this was the fellowship that I had craved when I hit that bottom. But I didn't know that this fellowship existed. What got me here was absolutely ass-kicking time. And I was the one to get the ass kicked. And that's how I found this fellowship. And Austria is absolutely right. We had a lot of pinochle sobriety. Okay? It was a crew of us. But this is the fellowship that I love today, unquestionably. I give a lot of my time to this fellowship. And I've learned one thing that's very important. As important as I am, I'm not greater than the whole. See, I had to look at that first tradition and I had to ask myself, am I just parroting everybody, or does my personal recovery depends upon my unity with you? Absolutely. And your unity with me. I've learned that the hard way by gossiping, backbiting, arguments, and just absolute meanness to a lot of us, till I really got it from here to here. I love AA. I give up my time. As long as I don't think more of myself than is necessary and know that this is God's business, I'm good to go. And it has to be that way for an ego-driven person like me. God is either everything or he's nothing. And I like to tell you, I was all spiritual as I went through this book and started having an experience with it. But then I got spiritually intoxicated. Look at me. Stop it. Look at me. Ain't I great? And I got right-sized. It took some ass kicking, but I got right. Pain is a great motivator, isn't it? That'll get your attention. Nothing else will. Alcohol worked for me for a long time, guys. And I think we all can identify. If you're an alcoholic, if you're one of us, when I had that third, fourth, or fifth drink, I was the best looking guy in the bar. I was the man. I was dressed in alligator shoes and silk and wool suits, and I could put on a show for you. That reputation that Bill says we don't deserve, I was a good actor. About that third, fourth, or fifth drink, right? I was transformed. And I fell in love with alcohol. But when alcohol turned on me, it sort of looked like this in Bill's story. And it looked like every bit of it. Every bit of it. Page 8 in Bill's story. Now, from a party animal to this, no one can tell of the loneliness and despair that I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around Alvin's ass in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. That's when alcohol stopped working. Okay. Now, the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous has been good for me because I didn't take any steps when I got here. I just need to get sober and find some sober friends. And I fell in love with this fellowship, like Austria we're talking about. And for about 7 years, I rocked and rolled. I ran on the fumes of you guys. Taking a personal inventory? I don't think so. Sharing some deep, dark secrets about my life? Ain't gonna happen. But I love the camp house with you. The dances. We were dancing fools, weren't we, Austria? I loved all that activity stuff. But I didn't know anything called about alcoholism, untreated alcoholism. I'm stone cold sober, doing the same shit I was doing when I was drinking. And the bottom fell out on me at 23rd and Cherry one night. The guy that I sponsored, and I sponsored him on my opinion. I was gonna kill us both. So he was chairing that night, and it was standing room only. And I knew he was going to call on me. It was a chair meeting. And I'm only half listening to everybody else because I'm only thinking about what I'm going to say when I get called on. And to be honest with you, that shit can still happen now. But that night, my sponsee that I sponsored on my opinion called on me after about the sixth or seventh person. Now, see, prior to that, I had been living a lie, and I hadn't drank and I hadn't used any drugs. But I was living in pain, stone cold sober. And I'm baffled. What is wrong with me? I'm sober, aren't I? But what was happening is that I was living a double life, sober. I would talk a good game amongst you, but when I was at home alone, it was butter pecan, Oreo cookies, and orange crush. And for a long time, that was a great marriage between those three things for me. I was trying to stuff what was going on with me. I was an untreated alcoholic at its core. And so as he was he wind down and he had called on everybody and then he called on me, everything I had thought about what I was going to say, you know, the Mr. AA shit, that we all sound good, because that was the problem with me. See, I thought I could think my way into this new way of living. It never dawned on me I need to live my way into this new way of thinking. Right? So when he called on me, nothing came out of my mouth that I had planned. I broke down and there came the tears and the snot. And I was in so much pain that day, at night, I told on myself for the first time. I told the truth. And I'm not going to use bad language here, but I said out loud, I'm freaking dying. I don't know where that came from. Because I'll die to look good. But that night it didn't matter. I had to stop faking the funk. And what came out of my mouth was absolutely truth. It's got to be more than this, I cried. Mr. AA wasn't having a good day, was he? Talking the talk wasn't in and of itself, it wasn't good enough that night. The room got really silent because they was used to me spewing a lot of stuff. I was impressive. I got hugs and handshakes, accolades. I was a good actor. Bill knew who I was before I did. I'm an actor in and of myself. When I'm running on self-will and all that stuff, drunk or sober, I create havoc in my life and yours. So that night was a game changer for me. And it was so uncomfortable that people that knew me there, because I went to that meeting a lot when the old Fremont closed down, I found another beehive, and that was 23rd and Cherry. And they were so used to me being Mr. AA at the end of that meeting, nobody wanted to stand on each side of me and hold my hands. They was hearing somebody very different than they were used to hearing. I had blown my cover, and I didn't care. Pain is a great motivator. It really is. Because you can't save that face and your ass at the same time. That has taken on a new meaning from that night on. I couldn't lie about this thing anymore. And at the end of the meeting, they all moved away from me. And the room was awfully quiet. I suspect some of them was feeling the same way. I suspect that. Because we wasn't talking about steps and recovery and helping others, right? And lo and behold, at the end of that prayer, a white girl came up to me with freckles. She's a brunette. And she says, quietly, she didn't try to grandstand. When everybody dispersed, she said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" See, I'd already blown my cover. It didn't matter. I was desperate. I needed help. And her name was Brenda. And she called me aside, away from everybody. She says, "I think I know a guy that can help you." And I blurted out without a thought, "Well, where the F is he?" I mean, it was a real sense of desperation for me. And she introduced me to a cat named Emmett. And he was doing a big book workshop, wasn't he, Steve? And my life ain't been the same since. And needless to say, it did not render me perfect. We know better than that, right? But I got a chance to live with some degree of authenticity. I could show up as I am, created in who I am. And I can't claim progress around all of that. But when I met Emmett that day, that was a game changer. I haven't even looked back. And once God removed my spiritual arrogance, I was really able to be of help to other people. Okay? I don't know about the new guy being the most important person in this room. I think we all are. Without the old timer, who is the new guy and girl going to get the message from? And then without the new guy, who am I going to carry it to? Because we get sick and tired of hearing each other, don't we? I heard that. Yeah. I think we're all important. If one of us is missing, we're not a whole. So it has been a great journey. But what really sold me on it, besides just doing the work in this workshop, was the way that I got a chance to make amends to my mom and her white husband. Because I'd get drunk and try to break up that marriage. I was a monster, y'all. Never mind what I looked like. I was a monster. And that marriage became all about me. You know what the issue was? What are my friends going to think about this one? What are they going to think about my mom marrying a white guy? And so I'd get drunk and I'd go to their home and I'd try to pick a fight with him. So my mom can take sides with her only child. That's some evil shit, ain't it? I'm sorry, but that's evil. But yet, that's all I knew. It was all about me and what I thought and what I felt. And they had patience with me. But then they reached the limit. And they collectively said one day, "You need to get your ass up out of here." They came together and kicked me out of their home. And I was not welcome back unless I came with a different attitude. So I got a chance to clean up the wreckage of my past with both of them. And in fact, I became their power of attorney. They came to trust me. Now, if that ain't a power greater than myself, I don't know who it is. Because I was a tramp. I couldn't be trusted. And the alcoholic that I am, I shot a lot of drugs, guys. But like I said, my alcoholism was the engine. So I got a chance to clean up the wreckage of my past with both of them. And I made sure both of them were taken care of before they left this scene. And I visited them. It was tough to visit. My mom was losing her mind, and his physical condition was deteriorating. One was mental, one was physical. And I got to tell you, it was inconvenience. And it was hard to watch somebody you love deteriorate. But I showed up for them till to the very end. And the real experience I had was at her deathbed. I held her hand, and her mind was gone. Dementia and Alzheimer's, that's some brutal stuff. It's like a death. They just ain't buried. It felt like a death. And I'm sitting there holding my mom's hand. And I didn't know what to say as she was fading away. And then it came to me, Mom, I'm so glad that I cleaned up the wreckage of my past with you. Now, this woman was losing her mind for over 3 years, slowly but surely. She was very lethargic and unresponsive. She was gone. But at her deathbed, she heard that. And I'm sitting there at the bed, by the bedside, holding her hand while I'm telling her this. And she slammed my hand, my whole arm back with the force of 10 men. It spooked the hell out of me because I wasn't sure she understood what I was saying. She understood exactly what I had said, and she had been in that demented state for over 3 years. And I knew right then and there was a God. There was a God. So I cleaned that stuff up with her, and I cried at her deathbed. It was a good death. Don't make amends when it's too late. I've been told that over and over again. Let's get this done. I shoulda and I coulda don't get it done. I was fortunate to get it done with both of them. With both of them. And that's when I really became sold on this way of life. That sealed the deal. And I remember my sponsor saying, I don't care what you think and I don't care how you feel. Just do this and see what happens. And that was a smart move on his part because I will think and feel my way out of anything that I don't want to do. I'm a good alcoholic, okay? And I just follow directions to the best of my ability. And I cleaned that stuff up. And then I had a dad wasn't part of my life from day one when I was a little boy, a little nappy-head boy in Memphis, Tennessee. He just never showed up for me. Charles Simpson. I hated it. That made for a lot more drinking. Huh? That's what we do, ain't it? We'll drink at you. That no good, dirty, pour me another one, right? Well, my mom had gave me a name called Mason. So my name was Alvin Mason for years. She wouldn't even give me his last name. But I got a chance with good sponsorship to go back and revisit that. The truth of the matter is, I'm a Simpson. That's it. I don't have to like him. And I don't know what happened between his mother and I stopped making that my business. Because if mom is unhappy, I'm unhappy. You know, that kind of thing when you're little. Yeah, he's a no good. I'm only hearing one side of the story, right? And I'm drawing my conclusion based on what I hear from her. Well, guess what? My amends to him was to read a letter to my sponsor from prayer and then answer it from prayer. Well, how would he respond to that? And I'm going to tell you, that's some serious stuff. That's a serious exercise. Don't underestimate it, right, Steve? And I went to the Snohomish County Courthouse. and changed my last name to Simpson. So I'm an Alvin Simpson today. That's just what I am. But I'm free from the nonsense. Where are we at here, honey? What I got?
Looks like you got 10 minutes.
10 minutes? I want 20.
I always want a little more.
But yeah. So I ended up getting that done. The amends to do the rest of the steps prior to the ninth step and not do ninth step work, it's a waste. It's like reading a good book, but you never finish it. You never finish it. And all the women I've ever had in my life, I always bitched about how they left me. That no good, you know what, left me. Because that's all I could see. But I've done enough work around it to see the real truth of the matter is they didn't leave me. I ran every one of them off. Every one of them I ran off with my selfishness and self-centeredness. No wonder I've been a bachelor all my life. Something's wrong with that picture, right? Yeah, it's not my fault. It's their fault, right? I never treated them with respect. And they just had enough of my poop. And they decided it's time to move on. This process, this way of life, it truly is an ego-busting process for a self-centered son of a gun like me. It ain't easy. That's why a lot of people I've met don't do this thing. Now, it doesn't make me better than them, but it's tough to look at ourselves for a change, isn't it? For you, those of you who have done this stuff. Because every time I had a problem, I looked from outside of myself. Him, her, them, they, right? If only the world and its people would behave, all would be utopia. Bill is a great writer, ain't he? He be telling the truth, though. And he reads my mail. If you're an alcoholic, you probably understand what he's saying, right? Yeah. So I get a chance to live the life I could only dream of in the past. You know, in my addiction, God was looking out for me and I didn't even know it. See, I was walking around all these years asleep, spiritually, thinking I was awake. But you don't know you're asleep until you become awake, right? And you look back at your life, my God, I was asleep. Yes, I was asleep. So I get a chance to live this thing with vigor. And I don't always feel like working with a sponsee. But my sponsor loved me enough to tell me the truth, though. He says, Alvin, I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you think. It's about love and service. That's our code, or isn't it? He would always put me on the spot with some stupid ass questions, right? And it's true. I love doing this, but I don't always feel like it doing. If you're really honest with yourself, it's like, no, I need to watch the NBA, right? NFL. But it's time to get busy. And I've been retired since 2018, June 1st of 2018. And I'm a trucker, interstate trucker by trade. I hauled hazmat across America when I was working. And I can tell you, I'm busier today than I was when I was working. It's a beautiful thing. I get tired of hearing Rudy call at midnight. No, that's not true. I wouldn't. But it's something that I love doing. I was talking to Steve earlier. In the book, I remember reading that. Some of us are fortunate enough to nearly give all of our time to this work. And way back when I first heard that read to me, I said, I wonder what that looks like. To give all of your time to 12-step work. That's some good stuff for this alcoholic. And I'm just glad that I can make a difference in somebody's life and make sure I don't take credit for it. God either is or he isn't. He's either everything or he's nothing. So my sponsors say, in simple terms, Alvin, never think more of yourself than necessary. That's an insult on the ego, ain't it? Don't think more of yourself than necessary. I love you guys. And if you're an alcoholic, I know you. I may not know you up close and personal, but if you're one of me, I know you and how you drank, how you thought, and how you felt. That's where I know you. And thanks for being here for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Alvin.